Hey, this is Kevin A. Davis over with Inked Pub, and tonight we have Andrea with us. And I wanted to go ahead and let her introduce herself, and then we're going to jump into some questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. My name is Andrea Ferrari Cristeller, and I'm a bilingual writer, retired teacher, and naturalist based in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. And I mostly write about nature, and I mostly do sci-fi, though I write poetry a lot too.
Nice, nice, nice. All right. So, what kind of projects are you working on right now? Anything special that's in your head?
Yeah, I'm finished. Actually, I'm finishing or finished a novel. I'm like in the process of beta reading at this moment. It's a sci-fi, but actually more of a literary sci-fi kind of novel about the rainforest trees in my country.
Okay,
Imagining that plant sentience is accepted in the future and there's a way to communicate. And therefore, there's a new discipline like anthropology, but it's called trilogy, by which somebody goes and collects the myths and stories from the rainforest trees.
nice. That sounds like fun.
I,
So,
I, I had a lot of fun. I had to do a lot of research. I had the good luck of being funded by Creature Conserve, which is an American NGO who helped me to travel twice. I always travel to the rainforest in my country, but this was like an extra help. And it was fine because I interviewed a lot of people and I could go really into the middle of the rainforest,
nice,
very remote places.
nice. That sounds like a fun job, truthfully, right?
Yeah, it's a great way of retiring, Kevin, really. Yeah,
All right. So you said your main genre is sci-fi. Is that correct?
yes,
Um,
speculative and
but
sci-fi.
is it so? Is that what you read as well as write? Is a lot of science fiction, or
Um,
what? What?
yeah,
What do you
not
prefer?
only, but yes, mostly. And you know what? I love um, ghost stories as well. I read a lot of those.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have a lot of genres that I read in, and in short stories, I write a lot of different genres. So what brought you to sci-fi as your main interest? Is that
I think because I started early on, like as an early teenager, I started reading sci-fi and it formed me. All my life I've been a lit teacher and I love the classics and I love teaching Shakespeare. But what I mostly read for pleasure and for the way it makes you rethink the world is sci-fi. Like I brought up myself with Ursula Le Guin and Bradbury and those authors.
yeah,
So
so
I naturally tended towards that genre.
now did you ever get into I mean, I considered Anne McCaffrey does a lot of sci-fi, even though it's couched in fantasy sometimes. She was one of my favorite writers, Jodi Lynn Nye as well. So it's fun how we get involved. I read a wide variety between, but pretty much I was reading a lot. So I scooped through a lot of what was available for me as a kid. You know, early on, it was like
Yeah.
you, you'd run through everything and then you'd be like, oh, here's, somebody new. And I'd start reading that. Um, you're working on the novel now, or you're in the editing stages.
I'm in the editing stages,
Um,
yeah.
so do you
But
have
all
your,
the time while I work in the novel, I got like different boats in different directions. So I'm also always writing short stories, which I submit, and luckily many of them are published, and poetry as well.
so do you have any next major big projects that you're up for, or like
I
another
think
novel in the works,
this
or
one is taking all my energy because I write in English, which sounds ridiculous because I'm Argentinian. And then I translate myself into Spanish, but my language of choice is English. I know that perhaps this shows in the writing, but I believe in a way it's part of my style.
Right?
And sometimes you can make what could be thought of as a defect as something that makes your writing characteristic or
Distinct.
distinct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm now also with the process of translating the novel into Spanish at the same time because that's what I did with my previous book, and I had it edited in both
Mhm.
languages published,
Nice.
and that was also sci-fi, and that was also the rainforest, but different. Yeah,
Sounds like you have a theme going here.
I perhaps I could say I do jungle gothic sometimes, I think.
Yeah. What do they always have like the steampunk and cyberpunk. Maybe you have jungle punk. Um, and make a new thing out there because we do need to. People don't realize that those are the lungs of the world, and they just mow them down without a thought. And then someday that's going to cause a problem, but they don't want to look at
Yeah,
that.
I have to say that because perhaps because I am a teacher, a retired one, but I'm still connected to what I believe. I believe as a literature teacher also that stories can change people
Yes.
in ways that, or art,
Yeah.
in ways that a long argument will not.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
why I write stories for conservation motives, mostly
Yeah.
regarding the jungle that I love and the cultures in that jungle, which are precious.
Yeah. And just people who read overall tend to have um, more empathy because we've seen the world through other eyes. Um,
Exactly.
and I think, because when you're watching TV, it's sort of like you're um, a voyeur in the situation. But when you're reading, you truly enter the spirit of that
Yeah.
POV that you're in. And then you can take a very gray character and learn to understand them and empathize with their choices that they've made, and maybe even recognize that everything that you judged quickly on early on to make them that great personality, there was something more to that. So I love reading, but and I think that's why I wanted to write was I wanted to be a part of this, what I think is something very special in the human behavior is reading. So
I agree. And sometimes I doubt myself as regards the writing and readers nowadays due to the huge amount of visual input that we
yep,
all receive. But I believe that, as you said, it's a different operation. And if it still works, I think it's a better operation that goes on inside the reader than contrasted to that of a viewer only. Let's hope it survives.
well, I have slightly different view because we own a bookstore. So you get to meet readers. And then I'm out at a lot of conferences where I meet readers, or some things are just for readers, not just a conference. So I get to meet the readers, and there's a lot of them, and they're voracious, some of them. Um, but yes, if I do a Comic Con and I'm, there, you can sort of question, like, does anybody read? um,
Yeah,
but there are a lot of readers, and they're still growing. And my son is, my oldest son, my youngest son, is very much of a reader, albeit different than I do. There's a lot of web novels kind of stuff.
yeah.
To me, it's still the same. It's reading. So I love the fact that there are still readers out in the world. All right. So outside of your writing pursuits, what else takes up your time?
Hmm. I love nature, so but I live in a city. Buenos Aires is a huge city, but
Yes.
luckily I live in the suburbs. So what takes my time mostly is if I whenever I can, apart from my family and my pets, is to go on walks in the reserves near my home, or just perhaps in the parks only. And I like looking at things in detail. So I'm not a quick walker and I go very slowly. And I like to look and to observe. That's what makes me happy,
Yeah.
I'd say.
And that's a sort of a lost art in today's fast world.
Yeah, but there are so many wonders. Actually, I think that both as a teacher and as a writer, I spend my time saying, look, look at this wonderful thing.
Yeah. 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 I always enjoyed one of the things that when my youngest son, I was the hiking instructor for Boy Scouts.
Mm,
You'd get the merit badge. I'd do the hikes because um, I just, I would enjoy being out there and seeing, even though it's Florida, certain that as the nature changes between like a moist lower land to a drier, things or areas that are mainly, very sandy and dune and all the different growths that would go on and how nature would adapt. Love to watch it. So that was always a thing that I enjoyed. Um,
yeah.
so before I go. So, how do you find time to write, and what is your routine or process? Is it something you do only once a week, or every night, or first thing in the morning? What's your process?
I'm more of a morning person. So, and I discovered because I retired very recently from teaching, and before I had two different jobs at two different schools, and still I was writing. How did I do that with a family and a house and pets? Early mornings. And I discovered that even through traumatic events, even through whatever is going on, there's always a way to find a small slot of time because that is time also for like myself. And I find it necessary to live.
Nice.
So it's a bit merged with nature watching or writing, any of both. But I need that time in order to live. So it's like a life-saving device to find that time.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends of mine in America right now that are um, disturbed with the situation, and
Yeah.
so I'll be like, "So, what are you writing?" And they're like, "I can't write." Um, right now because things are things that I'm thinking in my mind. Um, it is literally one of the ways I cope
Exactly. Yeah.
and it'll come out in little ways, but now I'm taking a lot more pokes at more authoritarian structures and other such because um, getting up there and yelling about it, it has some, being visible and showing that you don't support this behavior is good, but it doesn't for the people who are truly invested in that behavior. There's no discussion. There's not a discussion that can be had. Me or you
Yeah.
could discuss maybe whether or not AI
Mm.
has merits or problems and such like this, and we can come away from that discussion maybe with a new viewpoint or at least a friendly discussion. But having a discussion on those levels, and those attributes where um, there's just none. So for me, writing is that I can get I can get some of that out for me. So um, I understand some people can't, and they just stop writing because they're so focused on that. But for me, it's actually how I survive some of this is I express myself within that in some form, and I can see it come out, and I'll be like, "Wow, that was a little shot, wasn't it, Kevin?" But just it helps me get through it. You know?
Exactly. I feel something similar. It's like we all have wounds of many different kinds. The one you're mentioning is one of them. I
Yep,
also live in a country with a kind of government that is sympathetic to who is governing the US now. And discomfort and wounds can trigger writing of the most profound kind, I
yep,
think.
yeah, I agree. And I would wonder at some I would love to talk to some of the people I admire from past and say,
Mm.
what was going on in your life during that point? Because I found some messages in there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Ursula Le Guin, and I'm like, yeah, there's definitely some messages in there. So um, with all that, I find it. So, all right, I'm gonna jump into one last piece before we jump out of here and ask, what are you reading right now?
The last thing I read was a book by Bradbury that I had not read, which is Something Wicked This Way Come.
Oh
Something.
yes,
I read it for the holidays because I don't know why I had not read it before and loved it. And then I'm in an ongoing process with the book of Emma James, a collection of ghost stories. And then I'm also reading some local authors who write about the province of Misiones, where the rainforest that I study and love is. So around those interests, yes.
all right. So before we head out of here, any I need to go back and look at your links, but I'll be putting those up on YouTube underneath to make sure people can find you. And if I need to, I'll ask like where to find your books and those kind of things. So I'll put those underneath the YouTube description to make sure that we get as much information out there. So I feel like I really want to read something that she wrote now.
Thank
And
you.
they can. But anything that you think you would suggest that they jump on from your writing or that you want to highlight?
I think I still like it's hard to say what one feels for the books that are already out
Right.
in the world, like children in a way. And I still like the book that is out there because I think it's doing something that no one's done in my country, at least.
Okay.
And I still think it's a good thing,
And
that
that's
book.
English and Espanol?
It's both in English and in Spanish. Actually, it's first, as always, first in English, and then I translate myself, and then it goes into Spanish. But it's selling well, you know. For the people who visit Iguazu Falls, it is set near Iguazu Falls, which is a lot of tourists. They do buy the book.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out here and joining us for a little bit. Like I said, I'll get it up on YouTube and then we'll get that out to everyone else and people will be able to do it. So I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Thanks to you. This was a very nice conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.